Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The news of the day, according to multiple reports inside Carolina and On3 Sports, reporting that UNC is finalizing a deal to land Bill Belichick as its next head coach. Huge splash deal for the multi-Super Bowl winning coach, formerly of the Patriots. The Titans returned to the practice field today, getting ready to host the Bengals Sunday. The team released offensive tackle Leroy Watson Tuesday and signed linebacker Curtis Bolton, tackle Kellen Diesch, and kicker Braden Narveson to the practice squad. As starting kicker Nick Folk reportedly deals with an injury, Narveson was with the Titans in the preseason. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We're going to have Jordan Dajani on the show. We're also going to carry the Brian Callahan press conference coming up at around 1:15-ish. But first, I got a present, and I don't know. I was told that I had to open. This is from our producer, Sammy, in the back. And I don't know if it's a real present.
He said it's not from Bill.
Gift.
It's not from Bill Belichick.
It's not from Bill Belichick.
I wouldn't call it a present because I want it back. It's just a present. Back? Yeah, it's just for during the show.
Bag back.
Oh, man.
She wants the bag back?
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to figure
maybe,
out.
Is it in something? Is it food?
Well, I feel it's a box, and I feel some felt, so I'm trying to pull it out the right way. So this is, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I'm going to keep these and sell these. These are the national championship rings from the 2017 University of Central Florida.
I'm a little pissed off because I'm the one that bring them in, but you give them to him. I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
You're
trying to
here if you're on the video.
You're trying to divide us. Yeah, I'm the one that bring
There's actually two, so there's one for each of us.
What, I get to keep it then.
There you go.
I get to keep mine.
We got them on the video right here for everybody.
I always wanted to be part of a champion.
I mean, it says right here, national champions, UCF, team One Heartbeat is on here.
One's football and one's cheerleading.
How much money did y'all spend on this fake ring? Like, that is the real question.
Just throw it to me. Now, I'm a DB now. My hands are questionable.
But think about the money they spent on these when they're meaningless. This is just jewelry. It's costume jewelry.
Is it? Because I don't think that's what the NCAA says.
Well,
boy, she will defend that to a T, man. I tell you what. Hey, we do have I guess we got second place rings because they say it's the AFC championship ring. Or for the loser, you get the championship ring.
So these are those kinds of rings, you think?
I feel like that is, but that's not really true.
It was really cool, so I do appreciate you bringing it in.
That was pretty cool, though. Man, we're going to have to take a pic and put that out there.
Yeah.
UCF's fake championship ring.
Yeah, I'll put it on my pinky.
Is it real or is it
Throw the
Memorex?
fist out there. Well, speaking of college,
That's cool, man.
many reports that a deal is being finalized by University of North Carolina to bring in Bill Belichick as his head coach. Now, I don't know if the 800-page manifesto that leaked yesterday is a real thing or not. I would assume that he does have
That would have
demands.
scared me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
but it's also
800 pages?
Bill
Man.
Belichick probably has 800 pages for a game, for New England Patriots versus Cincinnati.
Did he
what I'm
just
saying?
merge this all together from his years of coaching? Like, man, who sat down and did 800 pages?
It's probably just all these notes he's collected over the years. But apparently, there's some things that they had to agree on for him to come on, which makes sense. I mean, you're coming to the college ranks. You want to have certain assurances that you're going to have power, you're going to have the money, you're going to have all this. But I'm excited. Like, I haven't been excited for a big coaching move like this since Nick Saban in Alabama, just because this is maybe the new trend where you see NFL coaches say, "Oh, I didn't get a head coaching job. Well, I'm good enough to be a head coach. Let me go down and run an NIL program, a NFL junior, so to speak, program, because there's free agency.
And they make more money in college than the head coaches in the
have
NFL.
More power. So this will be super interesting.
And NIL, you mentioned it, he gets to do contracts.
Right.
So that's really a contract. So I wasn't really opposed. I thought, everybody was saying it was a gimmick and maybe he's just trying to get some NFL. I thought he was really serious. Then finding out there's a background, there's a history here with his family, I think, and his grandfather or someone related to him that I guess coached there at North Carolina. So then that really opened up my eyes to I think he is very serious. And maybe that's kind of how he wants to finish out his legacy is developing these young athletes. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can, really handle the college game. When I say college game, I'm talking about the actual on-field product with the transfer portal, and then got to go back and recruit new players. But also, there's rules that are different that affect the game a little bit differently than the NFL. And I'm talking about this is where, you can have guys down the field, the offensive lineman, where in the NFL, you really can't.
He may love that. Think of all the plays he's probably got drawn up.
But he may not on the defensive side.
That's true.
And he is a defensive guy. Yeah. That's who he is now. So, you just never know. So I'm excited for North Carolina, too, to get a big ticket, coach like that and kind of
For years, I forgot that Mac Brown was the coach. I mean, the one of the best coaches of the early aughts went to North Carolina, and I just always forget. Oh, North Carolina.
Well, that was his second stint there. Texas. He was there before, but he got him back on the map, and then they kind of fell back off there for a little bit. So I'd love to see North Carolina have a really good football program to match up with their head coaches. They're in the basketball program. So I would be super excited to see what he can do. I just want to see a new challenge for him. He'll be refreshed, re-energized. And by the way, remember he was off last year.
Yeah,
he had a break. He was just doing podcasts.
He was doing really good podcast content.
Did he do your podcast?
He didn't do our podcast, Football and Other Efforts, which is new this week. Now going to be new time right after 3HL on Thursdays. By the way,
I could have gave him your number.
Yeah. I can still have him on. I got time.
I told him he can't come on. He can't be a stiffy.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, then I'm out. What he said.
Hey, listen, he's really good on the podcast. I really enjoy it.
Well, that's all fake, phony baloney now. We all know that.
I mean, that's a little bit of a front, I guess.
Yeah, he may be actually really like that. People who are really close, and I'm talking to Willie McGinnis, Rodney Harrison. When I talked to them, they said Bill was really only like that to the meeting. Now, he said, can he be a little rough around the edges, in the meetings and stuff? He said, but outside of that, guys, especially who have been around him, he's not really like that because you can pull his chain.
Yeah.
But as a young player, he said,
he was pretty funny on the Tom Brady roast, too. To me, this is a whole new potential this opens up a whole new potential for the NCAA. I mean, how many of these programs are going to go for former coaches, right? So it's not just coaches maybe seeking NCAA programs out, but how many of them are going to start going for some of these coaches that maybe are recently fired or have some notoriety or offensive coordinators and bring them in? Because really think about it, they also tried for Art Smith, who was an alumni. So now you start connecting these alumni dots to recent firings, and you're going to have to start including these NFL coaches because there's going to be an opportunity there.
Tennessee's going to beat Ryan Day and Vrabel is going to be the new.
I've been saying it for 2 years.
Well, I definitely been saying that, but I didn't think it was because this recent.
Right. But also, if you really think about it, we were talking.
I think it's more feasible now that I think he'd be a little more open to that.
And I brought up this point with Rep Brian. Think about it's not just that coaches may or may not want Vrabel here or certain openings may or may not want Vrabel. It's also about Vrabel wanting those openings because there's a lot of these openings that probably are going to scare him away because does he really want to go full with Jerry Jones even if the Dallas job comes open? Doesn't seem like a very Vrabel-esque move to do that. So it's a matching game, right? And that's what we kind of want to talk about on the show today. Brian Callahan will be at the podium at 1:15, but if he's not there, we're going to start our discussion. Is Brian Callahan really in over his head, or is that something that we're all just making up because they're losing? So that's something we're going to talk about. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Parcell. Stinky, stinky, stinky. Is that what it was like the last time you were at an auto repair shop? Smelly, greasy old rags laying around all over the place? A countertop that you would not dare touch? Another thing that stinks is repair shops that keep your car forever. And they're not honest. And they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Well, hey, it's Blaine Bishop to tell you about old Eurofix. Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. You never pay dealer prices. And Eurofix is located in Franklin, Hunted Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 as we await for Brian Callahan to get to the podium. We'll carry that press conference live. But we want to hear from you. Is Brian Callahan really in over his head? And now you can't just call in and say yes, because that's no fun. You're going to actually have to give me some reasons. Because at the end of the day, I think it just, Blaine, I don't know why people think, I know why people perceive that he's in over his head, but I do think that there is a lack of actual information as to why. I don't think anybody can really tell me why they think he's in over his head.
Why do you think they do?
I think
why do you think they do?
Well, I think they do because, first off, we've heard I've seen it in the chat numerous times. I've seen it on other people's shows. I've heard people call in. So I know the media doesn't. You see other, people talk about it, the way they phrase their questions and stuff like that. But there's a general consensus or general feeling, I feel like, and maybe it's just a vocal minority kind of situation, but that they feel that he's in over his head. And I'm like, is he really, though? I mean, when you really start breaking it down, like, I think it comes down to people see a first-time play caller, first-time head coach, and a lot of losing, and they automatically think, well, that dude's in over his head. Right. And that's not necessarily the case. No. I think that people think that his high emotional intelligence, where, he's not a rough and gruff and trying to, murder bears on the stage during his pressers kind of guy.
And that's when we really start seeing that, when he wasn't ripping players publicly. Okay, how about you be the head coach, the one that splinters your locker room by calling players out? I said multiple times, I guarantee you he's ripping people behind the scenes. We got to see a taste of it at the beginning of the season.
Right.
What did he go after Levis? What the are you doing?
What about when he went after the refs? I mean, he went after the refs.
I thought he was going to get thrown out. I mean, to be honest, remember I asked the question, has a coach ever got thrown out?
Right.
So I think what happens is, you hear him eloquent at the mic, and I think he's done all the appropriate things publicly that you need to do to make sure you keep your team together and still fighting for one another in a way that he's calling people out. You just can't hear it theoretically live, but he is.
Right. I think there's a difference in being a good head coach and being a coach over your head.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. He says this: we didn't execute. That's calling players out.
Yeah.
Without saying names.
Yeah.
We didn't execute. Hey, I called a good play is what that really says. And we didn't execute. Somebody got their hand, they got their butt whooped, and that's why the play didn't work. Whether it was the offensive lineman, whether the receiver wasn't open, or the Levis didn't go through his progression read, and the guy was wide open.
Yeah.
That's calling players out. That's the way you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to go after them. Watch this. Did Vrabel ever go after players like that? He was Russ and Grimm, and his style was totally different. He didn't even do that. But he didn't call people out either.
The only time he did was the David Long, Christian Fulton 8-4 guys.
Right, but we can pick it out.
Yeah.
One time. Right. I think people got to just quit looking at perception of what you think it is just because of how he is at the mic.
Yeah.
So I think he has done a fabulous job. And I know for sure, I know people on the staff that he is calling people out.
Yeah.
Now, to what extent? I don't know that. I'm not there. But I believe he is. And we got to see another side of him on that sideline. He can come across as Mr. Nice Guy, but all coaches in any industry, when you're talking about football, there is no way around it, or if not, players run over you. And you won't, that's not why they're not winning. It's just because it's quarterback play, and then every time they need them play made, whether it's on offense or defense, they can't make it. So they don't have enough talent, and they don't have enough belief.
It's not like he's calling plays or coaching this team.
Nothing has to do with coaching.
Right.
Now, he's already grown to actually where, to me, I'm cool with all his coaching's decisions mostly. Now, can we be ticky-tack? Man, I was ticky-tack with Vrabel and us crew, too. But that's really hard to say.
You can be ticky-tack with Andy Reid.
Right, exactly. Because guess what? I played with Andy Reid. I loved him to death. Man, his clock management was horrible.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it today. He just got Mahomes and not McNabb.
I mean, to me, that's where it all lies. Now, we're going to, speaking of Brian Callahan, he just got up to the podium. He's got his, apparently he's really cold. He's got his little hoodie on. He's got a toboggan on. I call those toboggans.
He just came from outside?
Or whatever. So he just came from outside practice and everything. So we're going to go to St. Thomas Sports Park where Brian Callahan's up at the podium.
I feel we're in a decent place. It's exciting to get ready. I've not got to prepare to play against for as long as I was, and it's kind of weird getting ready to go play the Bengals. How I feel about it. I mean, I think Joe Burrow is playing the quarterback position better than anybody in football. To me, he's the MVP of the NFL at this point. And then Jamar is playing as good as any receiver is playing football.
Okay, we're going to buy Sammy some time. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to pull it up on another computer and then play the press conference for you guys. But we'll also go to your phones when you guys want to call in, 615-737-1045, when you guys want to weigh in on whether Brian Callahan is in over his head or not. But, like we were talking and everything, and we'll hear more from Brian Callahan today, sometimes I feel like that fans have this, steadfast view of what a coach has to be, and because they don't see it, and they don't see it happening, then it's not happening. Like they don't see someone yelling on the sidelines or yelling at practice anymore, or they don't see someone stepping in, so they don't think that they are actually doing that. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we don't know. We can only go off what the player's saying. We've had two players come out recently in an article over at The Athletic, Cheeto and Tyler Boyd, who know Brian Callahan, right? Mm-hmm. They've known Brian Callahan for a while. First off, Tyler Boyd said, all the money was equal. I'm a Cali guy. I came over for Brian Callahan. Mm-hmm. But him and Cheeto both talked about how fiery he is in person and how he lets
as a head coach, even more so than when he was an assistant.
Okay, so we're ready. We're going to go to Brian Callahan over at St. Thomas Sports Park.
So no ill effects today at practice. Thought he threw the ball well.
Did it manage the injury this time? Now that you've kind of been through this and know how to talk about his pain management.
I've learned a lot about dealing with injuries, his in particular. So, I pay a lot of attention to some particular things, and just body language and things like that, arm angles, and a lot of different things I pay attention to. So, I feel good about what he did today.
Going back to Burrow, Coach, what is it about him, especially this season, that has helped him continue to be one of the elite quarterbacks?
There's a lot of things. One, I think he's just so accurate. He very rarely misses a throw. The ball is almost always where he intends it to go. The other part of it is he's got such great command of the offense, of everything happening out there, knows exactly where his problems are, knows exactly how to solve them. You're not going to ever fool him. You're also not ever going to rattle him. He's probably one of the most steadfast quarterbacks in football in terms of nothing rattles him one way or the other. He's just really a fantastic quarterback. And then the last part of his game that he's really unlocked this year is on the move. He's made some incredible plays off structure, and him and Jamar are on the same page along with those guys in the offense. They're really, really good at reacting when he breaks, and they've created quite a bit of offense that way. And he's playing the position as good as you can play quarterback. I mean, it's really fun to watch as a fan of quarterback play, and he's everything you look for in what you're expecting a great quarterback to look like. He looks like it.
Patience that the Bengals have, with you and Zach Taylor in the beginning. Like, how much do you look at that as an example of, okay, we kept our eyes on the prize, kept pressing forward, and applying that to now?
Yeah, I mean, situations are all different. But there is some similarities and some parallels anytime you're starting a program in your first year. And I draw on a lot of those experiences. It's hard to say that they're going to mirror each other in any way, shape, or form. But there is a lot of lessons I learned in that first year in particular that I still use daily here. And I don't want to draw too many comparisons because we're just sort of starting out, and that program's 6 years along at this point. So, but there's a lot of lessons I learned, a lot of things I draw upon from that early part of that.
What's one of those lessons?
When things get get challenging during the season and you're not winning games, there's a lot of things you have to do as a coach to continue to build what you expect it to look like and what it's supposed to look like moving forward. And the focus is always on that, is trying to build what you want the team to look like, practice like, play like, interact in the building. All those things are sort of constantly at the forefront of my mind. And that's one of the things that I thought Zach did such a fantastic job of in that first year at Cincinnati is being able to maintain the composure and the drive to keep getting better in the midst of a challenging season.
Along those lines, regarding that, what is the identity that you want this team to kind of hang its hat on, and how close do you feel like you've gotten to seeing this team's identity, come to fruition?
I've seen there's a lot of things that I see on a daily basis that I'm excited about, and what are the identity. One of the things we talk about all the time is being a connected team. A team that plays for each other, a team that plays and acts in a manner that you want a team to interact. We want to play with great effort. We want to play with great discipline. And we want to be a really tough physical football team. And those things you see a lot of. Now, it's not perfect. We're still working, trying to get to the level we need to get to. But those are what I want our team to be. And, schematics is one thing, but the character and the culture of what the team looks like, that's what I want it to look like.
In terms of the red zone offense, Coach, is there anything at this point of the season that you can maybe integrate or change?
Yeah, we're always looking, and we're always looking to improve those areas. Hasn't been a great stretch for us down there over the last, month in particular. Definitely things that we can try to put guys in better position. I can do a better job calling plays. We can definitely run the ball down there too, more than we have. So all those things are things that I look at, I'm critical of, trying to find ways to score more touchdowns. This is a game that we're going to clearly have to score touchdowns with the way that they're capable of scoring. So that's a point of emphasis for us this week to improve down there. And there's definitely things we can do to help our red zone offense in general and help players get in position to go make some plays.
It's obviously been terrific since he's been here, terrific this year with field goal accuracy. It's trending ridiculously well the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Why do you think kicking's got so much better in the league?
I think these guys they're so dialed in on their craft. I think what's really impressive about Nick being as many years as he's kicked is how disciplined he is in his approach. The weekly approach, the off-season approach of just keeping himself in the type of shape needed. But there's just so much focus that these guys have now from the time they start kicking all the way through, where they kick so much and they get so good at it. And then these guys are talented on top of it. You got really big legs in the league right now, guys that can hit from 50-plus like it's nothing. But I just think there's an influx of kicking focus and kicking talent across the league right now, and it's pretty impressive to watch. But Nick, for as long as he's done it, his consistency is incredible. And I think one of the things that's the mark of great players is guys that do it over time and do it at that same level over years. And Nick's certainly a great example of that. And I'm happy that we have him, and he's been fantastic to be around. So I'd like to see him keep kicking.
What are some of the reasons that Will has been able to trim the interceptions?
What's that?
What are some of the reasons that Will has been able to kind of trim the interceptions, you think, since your turn?
Yeah, I think he's doing a really good job of knowing, where to put the ball and when. I think he's improving in that regard. I think he's improving in his timing. I think he's improving in his command of what the offense is and where the ball should go. His recognition of coverage has gotten a lot better. And he's doing a nice job of working through progressions, and then not forcing a ball, being more patient, taking as it comes, not necessarily hunting up a big throw and just taking a completion. And then when the big throws have happened, he's been aggressive to hit them. But I think all those things have combined to make a much more patient player and a much more accurate quarterback as he just gets more comfortable. So it's been huge for us. I mean, that's why a lot of we've been in some of these games over the last month is his performance with the ball, and a large reason why some of those games early in the year where a struggle was because of his carelessness, if you will, is the best way to put it. But he's really improved in that regard, and it's helped our football team.
Brian, what's the process like to watch tape and game plan for the Bengals with so much familiarity there, both in player capabilities as well as scheme?
There's probably a small edge to that, to just knowing the personalities and knowing some strengths and weaknesses. But, at the end of the day, I look at the tape and I see what they do. There's still a lot of different faces there. There's some familiar ones, but there's still some different ones there that are new that they've brought in. And it's a scheme that I've got familiarity with. But other than that, Luke can call just about anything. He's got a deep bag of tricks, and we just got to go play our game that we need to play to win the game. And it's not the familiarity might help a little bit, but when the ball rolls out there on Sunday and we got to go play, it's we got to play and react to what we see and have a plan in place. But knowing that Lou's got all kinds of different looks he can present to us, and we got to play our game well and not worry so much about that part of it. So it's weird to game plan against them. Haven't been with all those guys for so long, but it's we'll get to Sunday and it's going to be just like every other Sunday and every other NFL game, and we're going to try like hell to win.
We talked earlier in the week about it being an impatient league. Cincinnati in particular showed a lot of patience, from ownership to coaching, from Zach to the rest of the staff. How does your experience of feeling patience in Cincinnati inform the type of head coach you want to be in Tennessee?
I think that Mr. Brown has such a great feel for football, and he sees a lot of the things that happen behind closed doors. And the one thing that's great about how they operate there is that they're always around and they see and converse, and they're sort of involved in the daily process and have a great feel for what's happening. So I think that makes it a lot easier when you have that connection with the people that you're working with, and you see progress that maybe not everybody sees out in the world, and you believe in what's being coached and what's being taught, and how the whole process is working. And I think that allows him to have a very, very unique perspective. And he's a naturally patient person. But again, it's, patience only goes so far, and you still got to produce at some point. And, thankfully that worked. That worked out for us, and we were able to produce. But certainly he saw a lot of what was building and believed in it. And I'm thankful for that.
There'll be time for, of course, post-mortem at some point
Yes.
this season. But so far, what do you feel like you've learned from the guy who took this job, and how would you tell that guy?
Well, we can sit down and talk for a while if you want. I would just say I've learned how to deal with and relate with all different types of parts of the building that were, those things that I've never done before, with the players, with being involved in all three phases. That's been good for me. It's been an area I've grown a lot, and just in terms of like overall team interaction and relation. I think I've learned a lot about the structure of the week, of practice, of all the different things, the minutia of the day-to-day. I've learned a lot about myself on top of it. There's a lot of things that come up daily that challenge you. They challenge your vision. They challenge your beliefs. And the one thing I've stayed true to is I know exactly what I want it to look like, and I know exactly what my vision is for it. And it's been challenged, but I've been able to maintain what I believe. And I think that that's a tough lesson to learn, is to continue to get back and keep pushing forward when things don't go exactly the way you thought they might when you take the job. So those are all very general things, and I'm sure we can get into them at another point more specifically. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of growth for me and a lot of learning pretty much every day since I've taken the job.
At your introductory press conference, you showed some raw emotion and gratitude towards Zach Taylor and your time spent with him.
Yeah.
What's the emotion going to be like on the field, on the sideline, during the game, and also afterwards in that post-game embrace?
Yeah, I think by the time we get to game day, we're ready to go play. That's a place I have very fond memories, but this is the place where I'm trying to build them and have the same type of memories and relationships with my staff here and the players here. So it'll be a normal game when it kicks off. Again, a lot of respect and love for the people there, but we're still going to go out there and try to go win the football game. It'll be good to see those guys. It'll be good to say hello, and then I wish them luck, and they'll move on to their next game. We'll move on to ours. And Zach and I will probably get together in the off season and share some stories, but it'll be a pretty normal NFL Sunday from that regard. But pre-game and post-game will always be good to see those people.
Through the evaluation of Will and get to the end of the season, will you measure him more by the progress he's made this year, or will it be more by what things he can still reach as a player and a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole lot of things in front of him that he can still reach. There's a lot of things I think he's getting better at, and plenty of things that I think he still continues to have to get better at. So that evaluation for him is ongoing. It's not anything that's going to, at the end of the season, likely doesn't stop it. And there's plenty of things that he's going to take from this experience that will make him better moving forward from here too. So those things are exciting. That's part of coaching that's fun, is that Will's very coachable, and he's open to trying to improve everything about his game, and he attacks it with an intensity and an enthusiasm that I think you need to get better. And those are the things that I'm excited about, and hopefully as the season ends at some point here and you get a chance to reflect and look back, there'll be more things that we can very specifically spell out that he has to improve on, and then how to improve on them. It's really easy to critique and tell them you got to improve on these things, but the idea is to have a plan and a process to help improve those things that are specific.
When you see Lamar getting 18 targets in a game, you know that the other team is coming into the game with his name circled at the top of the board to stop. That sense of futility, do you game plan similarly? Do you try to zig? How do you stop it?
I mean, it's pretty clear that you don't necessarily stop it. You know, he's going to have, just like when we played, Justin Jefferson early in the year and some of these really good receivers, these guys are going to have they're going to make their plays. They're going to have their catches. They're going to get the ball thrown to them, and they're going to make the plays. You do your best to minimize the impact of them over the course of a game, and you do your best to make it difficult for them to catch the football and have targets, but there's no doubt that the ball is going to go, from number 9 to number 1 multiple times during the game, and you got to make sure you're just in the right position, that when he does have catches, that you get him on the ground and they don't turn into explosives, and you can keep a cap on some of those bigger plays that show up. So yeah, you do your best to make it hard, but you know that the plays are going to come and the ball's going to him, and that's just part of playing against the great receivers in this league, and he's certainly one of them.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Doug.
All right.
That was Brian Callahan at the press conference talking about his time with the Bengals, talking about Will Levis. We're going to talk a little bit more about his time with the Bengals when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
A few days to treat it and get past it.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is how you get in on the conversation, because we're asking you, is Brian Callahan in over his head? And you got to give me more than just a yes or no answer. You got to give me some reasons why you think that, some good reasons, because we're not just going to let you off the hook. So we're going to go to Chad in Clarksville, who wants to talk about Callahan. Chad, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
I think it's Chuck, but is it me?
Yeah, it is you, Chuck.
All right. No, I don't think Callahan's over his head, but I do think Nick and Colt might be. And I think that's one area we're going to have to address in the offseason. But I think Callahan's learning. I think he's getting more adept at being a head coach. And I think he's still our future, but I think his friendship with Nick might be clouding some of that there. And Colt, I just don't think Colt's. I think he is over his head.
I appreciate that, Chuck. I mean, I look at it this way, and I see the phone lines are starting to light up. I look at it this way, you know, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, Blaine, but right now, I mean, what can we really put on Nick Holtz's plate? Because we don't really know everything that he's involved in. Because, you know, we know who the play caller is, but we don't know what parts of the offense Nick Holtz is part of or anything like that. And the Colt Anderson thing, the special teams played well. Now we'll see if that continues and that trend continues, but that's part of coaching, is making some tough decisions in season and maybe providing a guy a little bit of time to actually work through what he needs to work through on his personnel in his own unit.
Yeah, definitely on the offensive coordinator. I don't even understand what his role is besides running the meeting. So to me, Callahan's calling the plays. He's implementing all what, you know, Callahan wants to run on offense. So I don't know how much culpability I guess he has there in that whole situation, not understanding how the dynamics all work besides him running the meetings and, you know, translating or communicating with the players on what they want to run. As far as Colt Anderson, they've definitely improved. Some of that is probably on him. Some of it's on the players. Some of it is on just decision making on having special team players who love and enjoy and embrace playing special teams.
Right.
And that's an administrative deal. So I don't know how you're going to say one or the other played more part of that, but that'll be interesting at the end of the season. Everybody's going to get evaluated. The more and more we go down this road, I think the coaches are capable. I think eventually you start seeing where they didn't have the players, and players were the ones mostly I would say 80% are the ones who kind of, let them down a little bit, whether it was through injury or didn't do their job individually on certain plays, especially on the special teams. That was pretty clear cut. Maybe, early on in the season, head coach Callahan was not as good on, time management, getting the plays in. Then we've seen that's kind of evolved. He's kind of, transformed all that, and he's got, I think his offense is fine. I think it's really nice, actually, because it keeps me on my feet, too, watching him. So, I don't see anything. I'm in the camp of I want to see one more year a stability with the organization as far as up top, GM, and everybody involved up there to the head coach. Now, players, there may be a little different discussion on what route you go, starting with the quarterback.
Let's keep going to your phone, 615-737-1045. We're going to go to Toby in Clarksville. Toby, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hi, guys. How are y'all?
Doing good. How are you?
Yes, sir.
Good. Just want to play a theoretical game for you guys. Blaine,
okay.
What do you think Vrabel could have done with this roster, and vice versa? What do you think Callahan could have done with the past rosters? If you're kind of asking if he's over his head, do you think it would have been better? I just think Vrabel would have kept us in more games or won some of these closer games, and I think Callahan may be a better coach in the long run, but needs specific pieces. So I'm going to hang up and listen.
Well, that's a tough one there, man.
I don't think it's that tough.
Well, reason why I say I think it's tough is because theoretically he wouldn't have Henry, Vrabel, and
Right.
Callahan doesn't. And so you're trying to and this team is much more worse as far as talent-wise than Vrabel. crew. Even the last year, that team was still probably a better team, or they knew how to operate within the Vrabel system.
Right.
So I would say it's really hard to have those kind of comparisons. I like what he brings to the table, Callahan, as an offensive play caller and a quarterback, savant, someone who can train quarterbacks how to actually play the position. I don't think Vrabel and those guys actually did that. I thought they just did, hey, do this. Hey, he doesn't, cover two. We're going to read one side and we're going to throw here. They just made a simple temporary fix instead of actually teaching them how to play quarterback. So I look at it differently. I know on the surface they won more games, but that doesn't always tell you who's the better coach. I think in the long run, as the caller said, I think Callahan was the right choice, and I think we'll see that as we get better players. We're talent deficient at major positions. And when you don't have a decent offensive line and a proven quarterback, that will destroy your team. And I don't even think I think Vrabel would have got frustrated. He was also part of that problem, picking Dillard and the MPF and all those other guys. He was part of that equation. So it's really hard. What he had the savior of is he had King Henry.
Yeah.
And he had a veteran quarterback. See, so the comparisons are so different, and let's start from ground zero. Vrabel already, when he first got the job, when he was learning, people must not forget, he inherited a good team.
Right.
He had a veteran team who was already there.
About me.
Right.
Yeah.
So the comparison is totally different. If Vrabel had to come into this, I don't know if he would have been as good. I think it would have been somewhat similar. I just think it would be somewhat similar.
Because I look at it this way, Blaine. So I could take Toby's question a couple
Defense is
different
solid,
directions.
But can't
because
stop people.
the staff's not going to be as good. I think this staff is better than what
I agree.
than the Vrabel staffs of the last 2 years.
Right.
So that would be the first thing. I think the offensive scheme is better. And that scheme would not be here. The other thing is most of the players that they tried to acquire or they did acquire, Vrabel probably wouldn't have acquired them anyway. And I see that's the other part of the equation is Vrabel, I guess you'd call him the personnel part of the Vrabel, right?
Yeah, I don't know if
he struggled.
That. Yeah, he struggled. He was just like Belichick on certain things.
Right. He struggled with player evaluation. He struggled with coaching evaluation from his own staff. So to me, it's an unfair question. But I also do agree, look at the games that they lost. Is Mike Vrabel's magic suddenly going to make Will Levis not do a flick six? No. Or not throw a pick six to Jair Alexander? No. Is it? I mean, we saw that special teams, it's historically bad, but special teams was still bad under Vrabel as well. I mean, they got your punter injured. So, like, some of this stuff, I feel like people look at hindsight and forget just how rough the teams were with Vrabel these last 2 years and think that just an automatic swap. I think that at the end of the day, there would be certain personnel situations that would not have played out the same in this team, and maybe some people would have liked that, right? Maybe some people would have liked that they maybe overpaid for Derrick Henry. But guess what? Your offensive line is probably going to be worse than what it was right now because you're going to have Jason Hotelling probably still as your offensive line coach. Best interview Vrabel's ever been a part of, Jason Hotelling, offensive line coach. I mean, you're still going to have Tim Kelly as your offensive coordinator. I mean, like, there's going to be, maybe you still have Shane Bowen. Remember, they fielded the historically worst third down defense you've ever seen in the NFL. Like, there's a lot of issues that Vrabel had that would still be here. Injuries, one of them. And listen, I understand there have been some injuries here, but they have not been run as rampant as what they did under Vrabel. So, like, at the end of the day, I think people people cling on to 2019, 2020 Vrabel and 2021 Vrabel, which for the most part, played pretty well, but they forget 2022 and 2023 and the hand he had in those seasons turning out the way that they did.
Right. So you agree with the owner in that it was time for a change.
It was time
even
for a
with
change.
Personnel, with Henry and Tannehill.
Like, to me, for Vrabel at the end of the year, I was like, I'd be fine with firing Vrabel, but I'd understand that maybe he's earned enough, leeway. This is without knowing everything that happened in the building, right? But I think he earned enough maybe leeway to get one more year. But I understood why he was on the hot seat, and I said that he was on the hot seat all year on the podcast because you can't go through those kinds of losing seasons. And the way that they lost and the decisions that he himself was a part of is part of the reason they got so bad. And listen, a lot of it's heaps on John Robinson. But you don't think that John Robinson at some point was talking to Mike Vrabel? I understand that their situation soured at the very end, but some of the decisions they made early on when everything was all hunky-dory between the two cascaded and had a ripple effect through the whole season. So we'll continue taking your calls because I see there's a lot of phones there, Joe and Blair. We'll get to your all's phones, and Mayor Ron wants to chime in as well. We'll do that in the next, at the top of the hour. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation, it's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045 if you want to get in on the conversation. And we're talking about, is Brian Callahan in over his head, Blaine? And I think we both agree that we don't really get the sense that he isn't, but there was an interesting article that popped up this morning on The Athletic that was very timely, because this is what we were going to talk about, today when we ended yesterday's show, which was fantastic over at the Toy Field. Thanks to everybody that came out. And today, Paul Danner Jr., who covers the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic, he had an article, Brian Callahan, Zach Taylor share rare football journey, wouldn't be here without you. And it really talks about how much Brian Callahan was really, truly involved. And like we kind of said earlier, I think a lot of people equate wins and losses with being in over your head, when we don't really think that. But what was interesting was that how they pretty much talked about how Taylor gave Callahan a peek behind the curtain of life as a head coach since day one. So since 2019, when them two got hired, for those 5 years that they were together, he has been the day one guy. One day he would be in an office with Taylor all the time, and he would hear the issues from a player's family, injury developments, trade requests, important interviews, practice schedule planning, explosive conversations and messages from captains about the locker room, players unhappy with their role, potential coaching changes, questions from the front office, need for a disciplined decision, agents entering the fray, work-life balance concerns, the list goes on. And he was there side by side with Taylor in the office in some of these moments, going through that situation. Like, Taylor said he was the guy, if I was going through something, I was going right to his office and vent about it for a second. And as a byproduct of that, he got to see exactly what I was going through and how I handled it. And obviously he has other experiences in other regimes, but this was firsthand experience provided to him, because he recalls in the article, quote, "It was always funny because I'd be in his office a lot, game planning, talking about things. You just realize the flow of people. There were people knocking at his door every 5 minutes, and you're like, this is the most irritating crap I've ever seen. But that's the job. That's what happened. There's always people that need your time." So he has been involved in the ins and outs of what it takes to be a head coach and what it takes to instill a culture from a firsthand account, being, Brian Taylor's right-hand man, or Zach Taylor's right-hand man.
Yeah, well, and I think they had 2 losing seasons there.
They started. Well, they mentioned 6-25-1 is how they started off, and they saw the progress, and they felt the culture changing and talent level rising. And he talks about felt the investment, care, and patience from Mike Brown, and that is what led to maybe him really wanting to come to Tennessee. Was the family-owned aspect of it, was Amy Adams Strunk, and how this franchise is looking for this kind of mode, which again kind of plays into maybe a seat's not as hot as what everybody wants it to be.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with as far as people just want to see results, and didn't think, neither did I. I thought they would be probably 5 wins, maybe 6. Some of that on players, some of that maybe one, special teams, coaching. But other than that, I think they were probably somewhat where they need to be. Now, did he have to take over and have to develop players and develop the quarterback is the main reason, but let alone have an offensive line fix, which we see him going up and down. We think, J.C. Latham's a really good player, but has he hit the wall these last couple of games? So that part is unpredictable, especially when you're talking about athletes. So I think we got to be patient. Unfortunately, that's where we are. But I think he is the guy. I really do. So we shall see going into next season, because next season will be the question, at least for me. Where do we go from here? We could take a huge jump with the right acquisitions and the right type of players, when I'm talking about in the locker room. And then all of a sudden take off. Or it could be just somewhat of a steady move where then now we're a competitive team, which I thought we would be this year. as far as record-wise. And I get it. Everybody just wants to see the results. And I get some people thought that's what they promised. I never heard that they promised they're going to be a playoff team. They promised they're going to be a competitive team.
Right.
And then they've come up short on that. And, you can say injuries, quarterback play, and then special teams play, and then partly coaching. They cannot be part of this, not part of this equation, let alone the people up top. So, I just think, it came up short, but I think he is the guy. I want to believe it. And wholeheartedly, if I didn't think he was, I'd say it. I think he has all the tools. He's the trend in a way. It's just that in our face right now, it's painful.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine if I'm sitting at an owner chair and I'm trying to sell, PSLs for a new stadium in 3 years or so. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah. We've heard a lot of people say that they're not renewing their PSLs, but we've also seen that they're not just, coming from the team, but other reporters and other reports coming out. They're having no problem selling tickets. Because if you think about it, think about all the other events that come through there, and all that kind of stuff. And Nashville's such a different city than when the initial PSLs went on sale. It's a more expensive city, but it's a city filled with people that are looking for that entertainment value. And I can entertain a client with these tickets. I can get, I can show a client a good time, or I can afford this thing. It's such a different dynamic that. You're talking about WrestleMania, you're talking about Final Four, championship games, big-time concerts, and all this kind of stuff that are going to come through there. And that's attached. Those are some of the perks attached with these PSLs. So, from what has been reported, they're having no problem despite the product on the field. So, it's just very interesting, that dynamic of it. Let's go to Blair in Nashville and let's talk about Callahan. Blair, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. I love your show. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but all of his press conferences after losses have talked about gain and improvement and things that he really likes. And then when he was talking about being at Cincinnati and the owner being around all the time, it made me wonder, is he really saying that for the benefit of ownership of the Titans, who's not there, who doesn't see the practices and see incremental growth and that they're headed in the right direction? Is he talking to Amy Adams when he's giving these press conferences that on their face seem ridiculous when you lose 10-6?
I think there are positives that that it's just hard to talk about the positives right after a loss. But there are positives from the game.
That was kind of interesting there.
Yeah.
I think he kind of willed it back there going in the second go-round, but I think he understood. I don't think he meant it to be that way, but that's exactly how it was going to come off.
We talked about it a lot on this show, too, is the coaches
can't stop the presser with that.
Coaches may need some outside help in what to say in certain situations and all this kind of stuff, because he's coming out there and he's telling you from what he saw, they're a team that was really high on third down conversions. They only allowed 4 total pressures the entire game. The defense only allowed 10 points. Special teams improved. But you guys are, and I agree with what he followed it up with. None of that matters. None of that matters. But at the end of the day, this is just a coach that is just honest. And sometimes he just shoots from the hip with honesty, and that's going to bite you in the butt. And he even followed that up a couple sentences later. That crap doesn't matter because you didn't win.
Yeah.
And that's true. But I think
that's his way of throwing players under the bus.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And the reason why I said it, because it was all about the execution.
Yeah.
He should have, I think Vrabel would have said, I called the right plays.
Yeah.
We didn't get it done.
You're right. Coach better, play better, right?
Yeah. See, so because he did. And they did call the right plays. You can question, should we go for it on fourth down? Well, he drew up a play that was somebody wide open, and he threw to the person. Not only did he not throw, he threw on the side of the field, but threw to the guy that was covered or tougher catch.
Yeah.
So
threw it over the open guy.
Right. So I think he got a pass. I think that's what he really wanted to say, and I think we just got to understand how he's trying to communicate it, because he doesn't want to lose the locker room. You start pointing the fingers as a head coach, that can be really treacherous in the locker room. You talking about guys start playing like, well, this is all about about me. I'm going to start going after picks so I can get some incentives. I'm going to start, running, trying to slip blocks and go under blocks just so I can get incentives for my tackles or make a play, even though that's not my play to make. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So I like his tact and the way he operates from a player perspective. And was he talking to the owner? I think the caller is on to something. I think he is.
Really?
Here's why I say that. Callahan's too smart.
Yeah.
He's too smart. I think he wanted to get a little hint out there that, hey, if you hear every day, you'll actually see what I've been telling you.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. I didn't think it from that point of view.
See, because I'm sure it's been communicated, but if you're only there half the time, you're only going to I don't know. I'm looking at the product on Sunday. It don't look like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you what it is.
And they do have their weekly meetings,
right? Of course.
Every week.
I
was about to say merdings. I don't know what merdings are.
There's always messages. I thought Vrabel sent a message in the media. This was one that maybe stand out. You maybe remember. He said something about, I forgot how he called the term the players. I don't have the players actually to win.
Yeah.
That's a shot at JR.
Right.
And that was the beginning of him starting taking shots. I don't have the personnel, really, is what he really wanted to say, is to win these games.
Yeah.
See?
It'll be interesting to see. When we come back, we'll go around the NFL with Jordan Dajani. We'll also talk about the Bill Belichick to UNC with him. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. But first, we're going to go to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We're going to go around the NFL. But first, Jordan, we're going to go to college football because reports are coming in. You're starting to hear the NFL, the big boys in the NFL start saying, the deal's nearing the finish line. Bill Belichick and University of North Carolina. I mean, just talk about that for a second, about the ramifications of what that says about the NFL opportunities, but also what it says about the future of the NCAA.
What's going on, friends? Thanks for having me on the show. My first reaction was, whoa, who saw this coming? Are you kidding me? Well, first of all, as a kid who grew up in the Triangle, literally went to elementary school in Chapel Hill, I'm kind of thrilled. I consider myself more of an NC State fan, but this is exciting just for sports in general. And here's the thing. The deal is not finalized just yet, and I'm not even 100% certain it's going to be finalized. But the bottom line is that Bill Belichick has had to have been thinking about this for quite some time, and I think the old trailblazer wants to trailblaze again. And what better opportunity than in today's college football world where seemingly everything is still being finalized, from the rules regarding NIL, recruiting, and even the dang playoff format itself is still being finalized. And that's all great, but Belichick is wanting to do things his way. And that's why I think that manifesto, right, the reported Belichick Bible he handed out to UNC decision makers, that was not just a game plan, but I think it might have been a list of demands as well, right? This is the GM I'm bringing in to handle recruiting and NIL. This is how our financial resources will be utilized. This is what I want for staff, for trainers, for how my program is going to be run. And that's actually a reason why I felt like this potential marriage was always a long shot. How many board of directors and athletic directors are going to hand the keys over to their entire D1 college football program to a 70-year-old coach who hasn't spent time in the new NCAA? It's a gamble. It's a big gamble, but I'm excited to see how it turns out if this thing does indeed get finalized.
Yeah, it's wild because I think it has ramifications both for the NFL and for the NCAA in terms of coaches choosing which one is the better opportunity for them. Not just head coaches, but coordinators in the NFL, and maybe we see more coordinators in college football just stay back. It'll be very interesting to see that ripple effect. I want to talk about Kansas City, and I've kind of been under this impression until Kansas City actually loses the Super Bowl, they're going to win the Super Bowl. But typically in late November, early December, they're starting to figure things out and turn things around. But right now, this team struggles week to week in close games. What's going on in Kansas City? And should I just remain patient and the magic switch will be flipped?
Zach, I'm with you. I'm remaining patient. I don't care if the Chiefs lose out. They're still going to be the Super Bowl favorites almost, in my opinion. Now, I understand that they've won back-to-back games by a final score of 19-17, which is absolutely ridiculous. But here's the thing. I believe that being able to pull out victories in close games is a legitimate skill. And I think that it's very important for the makeup of a potential contender in today's NFL. So they're not winning with flash. They're not winning with style. And I think the entire NFL world is going to be keeping a close eye on how they fare down this back half of the schedule. They have to play at the Cleveland Browns, which may be a low-scoring affair. They have to host C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, which will be a fascinating matchup. Then they play at the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is probably another low-scoring affair before they finish out the season against the Denver Broncos. It's tough for me to tell you right now, being honest, that the Chiefs are going to be able to flip the narrative and all of a sudden hit another gear before we reach the playoffs. But what I do believe is that they're capable of, once we get to postseason football, that they can start playing some of their best football. Why do I say that? Because that's exactly what happened last year. The Chiefs in 2023, in my opinion, did not look good, and I was seriously doubting if they had the wherewithal to go all the way. But once they got to the most important games, they were able to come through. They were even underdogs in the Super Bowl to the 49ers, and guess who won that game? The Chiefs, in overtime, in a close game, with a game-winning drive. When you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the head of your operation, I'm going to keep the faith in saying that they can be there when it's all said and done.
The Houston Texans have a rough road ahead, easy for me to say, and then the Indianapolis Colts are sitting there at 6-7, while the Texans are 8-5 with games against Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, and then the Titans at the end of the year. I've kind of said that, the schedule's not working out for the Houston, and they should have probably won some more games early down the stretch, because as bad as maybe Anthony Richardson is as a passer, there is some kind of miracle formula working in the fourth quarter, because he's engineered 2 fourth-quarter comebacks in 2 weeks. Obviously, that isn't sustainable for the rest of the way. But, the Colts don't have that tough of a schedule. Can the Colts still win this division?
Man, I'm so glad you brought this up. People think the AFC South is done. The Texans are clinched. They're going to be the division winners for the second straight year. Not so fast, my friends. This is a 2-team race between the Texans and Colts, as you mentioned. The Texans are at 8-5, while the Colts are at 6-7. And Houston's actually already swept the season series versus Indy as well, which is very important. But as you mentioned, the Texans' remaining schedule is much tougher than Indy's. So looking at this format right now, the Colts need to win out, which I do think is actually possible. They play at the Broncos this week, which is going to be an important game. They host the Tennessee Titans. They play at the Giants and then versus the Jaguars to end the season. It's possible they can go 4-0 in that stretch. Now, as for the Texans, in my opinion, I think they need to lose at least 3 out of their final 4 contests. That sounds crazy, but if you look at their opponents that they'll be facing, it's not so crazy. They host the Miami Dolphins this week, which will be an important game. Then they play the Kansas City Chiefs. Then they host the Baltimore Ravens, and they finish out the season against your Tennessee Titans. So let's say the Texans beat the Dolphins this week, which they're probably going to be favored in this matchup. They're still not done. The Titans, as you know, just upset the Texans a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago in Houston. And we know that the Titans last year kept the Jaguars out of the playoffs right before firing head coach Mike Vrabel. So it may come down to that final week. But again, the Colts are probably going to have to win out. So the Texans, are they favored to win the division? Absolutely. But it is not done just yet.
We're going around the NFL with Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports.
Well, since we're going around and around, man, is this a trend going on? Because I haven't seen this in the NFL in a long time. The Eagles, Lurie, who was there when I was there, the owner, of course, Dolphins, Ross, owner, as well as the Bills franchise, all have sold some form of ownership to different groups. Why is this happening now? And then actually in the same season. That's what makes me a little leery of, and speaking of Leary and Lurie and everybody else, man, what's going on? Why is this happening? And it's not to family members, I don't think.
Yes. So this was actually something that was approved back in August, where NFL owners voted to allow private equity funds to buy stakes in teams. So today, December 11th, I guess, is Private Equity Day around the NFL. We saw multiple franchises sell parts of their team. And I think that a total of 10% of a team is allowed to be owned by private equity funds, but each stake must be for at least 3%. Of course, I didn't take business classes at the University of Tennessee, so I'm not exactly qualified to talk about this, but I know what it does, and that's that it gives access to millions and millions of dollars in cash for these owners. So we knew that when this was ratified earlier in the preseason, or I should say before the regular season, that NFL owners were interested in trying to get some of that available cash by selling off some of their small stakes in their teams, and that's what we saw today.
Wow, that was man. You knew that question was coming.
I tried.
It was just a UT education. And speaking of UT, I got to ask you: are you nervous about UT? I know you NFL, but you definitely know college. UT Ohio State at the Ohio State University. There, Eddie told me to make sure I say that. But what are your thoughts on this one? I think they can win this one.
Yeah, Blaine, if you were having me on the show to give you a pregame speech and get everyone excited, I'm probably not the guy. I got to be honest. I am a little bit nervous, right? I brought up last week, my sister went to Ohio State. She's already secured her ticket. She's got all her friends going, so that's going to be an exciting family rivalry. In fact, the game's taking place on my dad's birthday, so she's totally bypassing that and just going to the game itself. So I guess I'm the favorite kid in the family once again. But when it comes down to the matchup, I mean, I'm hoping that Ohio State can just roll over and die because the vibes are so bad around Ryan Day after that home loss against Michigan. But here's the thing. It's an entirely new format at home in the shoe under the lights. Of course, the fan base is going to be rejuvenated and ready for a deep postseason run for their Buckeyes. So I'm hoping Tennessee's defense can stay stout. I'm hoping Nico can play some of the best football of his young college career. And that's going to be a formula for victory, in my opinion. It kind of stinks that they have to go to the Rose Bowl right after to play #1 Oregon. I don't like the format of this college football playoff, but yeah, this is going to be super exciting.
Well, the format in the NFL, I think you do like. But one of the teams you've talked about over the last 2 years with yours truly, Tomlin, as the head coach, should we be expecting more in the playoffs than we've seen over the last 5 years? See, expectations, you set the expectations, Tomlin, and now you're really disappointed. Oh, I've been to the playoffs every time I've been, but where have you gone? I'm afraid the Andy Reid deal is starting to happen when I was like in Philly. You're going to the playoffs, you're making it to the championships, but that's not enough. Do you think this will ever happen to Tomlin?
Yeah, that's a great point by you. When's the last time the Steelers won a postseason game? It was probably
Exactly.
2016 playoffs maybe, and then they've been one and done in 2017, 2020, 2021, 23, all these games. But, you know, I think it's a good point by you, but there is reason for optimism with Pittsburgh this particular postseason. 2 reasons why. First of all, your defense, right? The defense for the Steelers has been their calling card since I can't even remember when, so long. And I think they have probably the top unit in the NFL this year, especially with all the playmakers. But offensively, that's where there's a new sense of optimism, in my opinion. Maybe Russell Wilson isn't throwing for 400 yards every single game. He kind of struggled early against Cleveland this past week. But the bottom line is that the Steelers have been winning football games. I think his only loss has come to the Browns in that driving snowstorm. So Russell Wilson has clearly improved the offense. You have some running backs who can definitely carry the load. George Pickens, once he gets healthy, is an emerging #1 as long as he stops racking up penalties every single game. There's reason to be hopeful for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If we're power ranking teams, they're somewhere in that top 5. But the question is, you know, can they outscore or contain the Bills' offense? Can they get past the Kansas City Chiefs, who now their calling card is winning close games? That's what will be decided in the postseason.
One more, man, and yours truly and our favorite, A.J. Brown, is having issues with Mr. Hurts here. I don't know what's going on, if it's Hurts or him, but, man, you cannot go to the Philly media and speak, you know, as though nothing will be a problem. When you're winning, they're 11 and 2 or whatever the number is. They are doing a good job. They're still winning games, even though if they're, you know, not blowing people out or teams that they should be blowing out. Why is this happening? What is going on in Philly? And I know their media, they on top of it.
Brutally honest from A.J. Brown in the locker room. And to your point, maybe he should have kept that answer to himself. He was asked what could be improved with the Eagles offense, and he had one word: passing. And that's fair to absolutely put that on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts. And here's the thing. Even if he shouldn't have said that, I absolutely believe that A.J. Brown is right. I don't know if you guys watched that Eagles game versus the Panthers, but Jalen Hurts did not look good throwing the football. He has not thrown for 200 yards in a game since November 14th. And then you got Brandon Graham, who's, for some reason, at 36 years old, who should know better, telling everyone that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown aren't friends anymore. I mean, you got to be able to squash the negative noise. Don't amplify it. And it's definitely worrisome. As you brought up, the Eagles are 11 and 2. They're on a big winning streak. They are the #2 seed in the NFC. They should be a legitimate contender. But watching them over the past few weeks, they have not been playing their best football. But with that being said, they have a huge opportunity this week to flip that narrative on its head. When the Pittsburgh Steelers come to town, if they can get a nice win against the Steelers, Jalen Hurts has a better day passing the ball to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, then once again the Eagles will look as one of the favorites in the NFC.
There you have it. Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Okay, I watched that Rams-Bills game back. I had to go because we were doing a radio show during it, so I only got to see a little bit of the highlights and clips. So I went and watched it back, and it reminded me so much of the Rams-Chiefs from a couple of years ago where they were like both 50 points and everything, but incredible. But the Rams walked away with the win. And then I go and watch the Seahawks defense, just totally everything, a light has switched on for that defense. Mike McDonald's scheme has just come to life. They've gotten the right people and the right players, and they're all starting to play football. Seahawks and Rams, who wins the NFC West right now if you had to put your money on it?
Yeah, I like both of these teams. I think it might come down to the schedule. And I believe they face off, actually, in Week 18, the regular season finale. So maybe that game could potentially be for the division. I know that the Rams defeated the Seahawks in Seattle earlier this year in overtime in what was a thrilling game. You know, you talk about the Seahawks kind of flipping the script defensively. This Mike McDonald defense is allowing 15.5 points per game over the last 4 contests after allowing 29.7 points per game over the previous 6 games. That has been the reason that Seattle all of a sudden finds itself atop the NFC West. But of course, the work is not over. I think the Rams put the NFL world on notice with this explosion, this offensive explosion against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Matthew Stafford still looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL to me, and he's got some great weapons to work with. Over the past 2 years, Stafford is 11-5 with over 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions when he, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua all play. So defensively, the Rams are definitely lacking. I think they're a bottom 10 unit in the NFL despite all this young talent they have on the defensive front. I'm putting my money right now on the Los Angeles Rams because they have that postseason experience. They don't have a first-year head coach. They have a great offensive mind. If this offense in LA can remain healthy, I have the Rams going to the postseason.
Today, we've been talking about whether Brian Callahan is a head coach that's in over his head. That seems to be a popular narrative with fans and everything. We kind of think it's a little bit more tied to wins or losses, but do you view the job that Brian Callahan has done over the course of the year as a coach that's truly in over his head here at the Tennessee Titans?
I don't think I can say for sure that Brian Callahan is over his head. And I'm certainly not someone who is clamoring for him to be fired after 1 season in Tennessee. And you know, an interesting radio segment maybe you guys can do tomorrow, but something I've been asking myself is, what are the reasons for optimism moving forward with this regime, right? You know, is it that Callahan is simply getting over the hump as a first-time coach and play caller, that maybe Ran Carthon hit on a couple of draft picks, that the coaching staff adjusted some things on special teams, as Zach has talked about on the show? You know, what are those reasons? And the problem is that, in my opinion, they're not exactly clear-cut, right? The Titans did some good things versus the Jaguars on Sunday, but you lost in a half-empty stadium with boos cascading down. You didn't score a single touchdown against the worst defense in the NFL that trotted out a backup quarterback. So obviously the vibes in Music City are not good. And I asked myself, is it a quarterback issue? What if Sam Darnold was the quarterback for the Titans? How much better would this team be in 2024? Is the roster just not talented as a whole compared to the standard in the NFL, if you will? So I think that obviously Callahan, he should get another year. I don't think he should be fired. But obviously the fan base deserves change. They want to see change. And I think the thing that irks me the most is I was very optimistic for Callahan, the hiring of him, because he's an offensive-minded head coach. But your offense ranks bottom 5 in the NFL, bottom 4 in scoring defense, and of course just lost to the Jaguars on Sunday. So I'm still searching for those awesome clear-cut reasons for optimism with this coaching regime, but I can't say for sure that he's over his head.
Well, that is Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports joining us for his weekly tour around the NFL, answering all the big questions. We really appreciate it, Jordan, whenever you get to stop by.
Appreciate JD.
You guys are the best. Appreciate you guys.
When we come back, we'll continue our discussion around Brian Callahan, talking about, you know, is he in over his head, talking about some more situations, what the Cheeto, Awuzie, and Tyler Boyd had to say about his coaching style versus what's going on, what they're used to in Cincinnati. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop. I want to know if you have heard about peptides. And peptides are shaking up the fitness world. They are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. So as we age, they start to decline, and at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. So maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. Well, if you thought this is just the normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. Peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are all safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals, a natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. So feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, edgepeptide.com, or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Hey, it's Zach Lyons here of 104.5 The Zone, and as the resident sports analytics nerd, I know data, and the numbers tell me that the dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered for local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with special savings and incentives. Reach out today to your local ad representative or go to 1045thezone.com/epic. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. If you are someone that thinks that, Brian Callahan is in over his head, we'd like to hear from you, 615-737-1045. But you got to give us an actual reason. You can't just say yes, can't just say no. We need the actual reason. All right, so we're going to head to the phones. We're going to go to Michael, who wants to talk about the Titans and has a question about the general manager. Michael, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Good afternoon, guys. Happy holidays to both of you.
Yeah. Happy holidays to you, Michael.
As far as Callahan, you got to give the guy, got to give him a chance. I mean, he walked into a dumpster fire. You don't want the Titans to be like the Carolina Panthers that have a coaching carousel, new coach every year. And to the players and the ownership and the managers, everybody in the organization, except for the cheerleaders and the equipment guys, I mean, they have to look in the mirror and like, look, we are the worst team in the NFL, and we can either improve or, just, you don't want to be an embarrassment. And that's the one thing I look at. And as far as, I got a question for Blaine, and that's, you have former players that are offensive line coaches, maybe coordinators, maybe head coaches. How come you don't see no former players that know the game, that know the ins and outs, that us, the fans, don't see? How come you don't see them being general managers?
Well, Rand Carthon's one.
Yeah, Rand Carthon, technically a former player.
I think John Lynch is, definitely.
Remember John Elway was around? Martin Mayhew, general manager of the Commanders. Billy Bean. Dan Morgan just got one over at the Panthers. He's the general manager of the Panthers, former linebacker. So, it's not a lot of them, but
Hugh Millen used to be Detroit.
Right. Bill Polian was, right?
Not any of the recent players, probably because the recent players, over the last 10, 20 years, making so much money. They don't want to get into the GM business.
If I remember correctly, I think Von Miller is wanting to be a GM. Like, he's going to try to, fast track his general manager status.
Really?
I think he's been training to do stuff and stuff.
Well, he's out there at the Bills. He got a little bored.
Yeah, guess so.
He's been injured out there. So,
but yeah,
that's interesting.
But you do wonder why more aren't there. But I think it's also, I think it's trending that direction. I think more teams are starting to do it because I think they're all trying to copy, the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan kind of deal. And I think that's what probably prompted Dave Tepper of Carolina to go with Dave Canales, offensive-minded head coach, and former player Dan Morgan for the Panthers. So it's just going to be interesting. And then, of course, like we said, Rand Carthon is also a former GM. We're going to go to John in Lebanon, who once talked about Callahan. John, you're on with Blaine and Zach. John, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Oh, yeah, hello. This problem with the Titans is they can't never seem to hold on to good players. First of all, we've wasted so many draft picks and then not able to establish a good player. We've got a few players right now in the line that are good players, but it don't seem like they're getting the coaching. And we're getting too many penalties and things like that. And, the rest of it's a lot of excuse making. Of course, our quarterback doesn't help us. I hate to say that on the air and bring the kid down, but he's just not helping. Mason Rudolph's got a lot more leadership capabilities. So I don't know. They need to do their homework on who they get and not waste so many precious draft choices. And if they're going to get people out of the league, get good people that'll work with the people. I don't see any coordination between the quarterback and the ends at all, hardly. That's about all I got to say. The general manager falls into that category as well as the coach.
All right. That was John's take on the whole situation right there. Let's go to Scotty in Castilian Springs, who wants to talk. Who wants to talk about Brian Callahan? Scotty, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. Who are you going to replace him with? We got so many bad teams in the NFL that got bad coaches too. That teams are not doing good this year. But the same thing year after year for the last 4 years is our offensive line. Until we get some strength there, Callahan does. He's got what he's given to him by Ray. So he's doing the best he can, and he's got 1 year now to try to fix everything, to see where the problems are, where they can readjust and do what we can do next year. But there's who are you going to replace him with?
I agree.
Coaches aren't there.
I agree, Scotty. You got to be, got to show a little bit of patience right there, for sure. And, there's going to be other teams with more attractive situations than Tennessee Titans that are probably going to garner better head coaches. Your most attractive opening was, I thought, the Tennessee Titans last year. not the case this year, especially with the Bears and their whole entire situation coming up. Let's go to Joe in Goodlettsville. Joe, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, appreciate it. Hey, man, loved your game back in the day, guy. I mean, it was inspirational. My comment is this: I've caught in by about the third or fourth week, Satan, that Callahan always coached from the box, and it was a different scenario being down on the field, and didn't know if maybe he might have too much on him calling the plays and being the head coach and justifying who's doing what, where, and listening on the headset and everything. And still may be that way. He's a new guy. You got to kind of get in there, get your toes wet, and find out what I can do, what I can't do. Trust yourself, trust your people. Diversify everybody and let them do what they need to do best. Blaine, the coaches you've had in the best, how did they motivate? How did they get in there to find out what made you tick? And let's listen to you off there, guys.
All right, thanks, Joe.
He hit a nerve with me. That is a question that I don't even think it should be a question. And once it becomes a question, you chose the wrong players. If you don't have self-motivated players, then I don't want them. I don't care how talented you are. I don't want you. In the history of who you are throughout your career, and they go all the way back to high school even, they know these guys. These guys have to be self-motivated. That's why I always used to say all of them have to show some form of leadership or being a captain at any level that they've played at. So to me, that tells you if they're self-motivated and have high character, and they're gonna be guys who, if they're not starting, they're gonna still try to do their best, even if they're on special teams. So I don't even want unself-motivated players, period.
I love it. I love that answer. We're going to go to Christopher in Indy who wants to talk about Callahan. Christopher, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think it's a case of that Callahan's not over his head. I just think he's overwhelmed, especially with some other coaches. I mean, we have a lot of new coaches on this team doing parts of their jobs for the first time. And, as fans, we're kind of like that Dr. Pepper commercial that got caught up on the hype train with all the players we signed, and then kind of reality and some bad situations hit our team, and now we're in the situation we are. So, it'll be better next year, but unfortunately, we're just all going to have to show some patience, and we know how that is.
So you say he's not over his head, but he's just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think that was an interesting way to put it. That kind of actually popped up in my head, too, when I was doing some show planning and talking about it. It's like, if just kind of maybe overwhelmed, and I kind of stopped myself from saying it. So I'm like, I don't know if that's really the right word, but that may be the only word to describe it.
Right. That's why I asked him the clarity, because that's how I felt when I heard it. Like, that's interesting. That is two different things. And maybe with all the things, maybe he didn't think he was going to have to deal with not only have to, really tutor the quarterback to this level, let alone all the injuries. Oh, things aren't working out on the offensive line. I thought that would be better. The right tackle would be better. Up now, special teams. Now we got to, get some better players for special teams. I thought we were going to go with these players, and it didn't work out. So maybe a little bit of that, I would have to say. Yeah.
Let's go to close out the show with Louisa just real quick. Louisa, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hi, it's Louise.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Look, I've been called everything but a child of God. I'm good. Happy holidays to everyone. But I do want to respond in regards to what John said, or anyone. I don't think Callahan should be fired. I support this team. I've supported this team. This is a great city. Stop talking about the owner to be fired. Stop talking about the coaches to be fired. Yeah, there's some breakup conversations that need to be had, and I've said this on other shows. But at the end of the day, it's like you want to build something, and not one of us, I don't care what industry you are in or what you do for a living, on your first day, second day, or third day, you never got the job completely right. You're going to be dealing with things you never even expected to deal with. But this is why you got to build your foundation. And all the folks that keep wanting people to be fired, stop. Support your team. Let Callahan. Stop. Just stop.
Okay,
This is a great city, and I'm done.
We got to go to break. We got to end the show, but we're going to end it on that because that was a positive moment, and I loved it. 3HL's up next is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime,
and in between time,
peace.